injury to A.J. McCarron. How does this change things? Obviously, he can't start game one if he's hurt. Was he going to start game one?
Maybe. I don't know what their plan was. This week, maybe we get a window into that because it's the so-called important preseason game. But with McCarron not there, it might not even be a clue in that respect anyway. My position has always been that Josh Allen should play no matter what. If he's upright, he should play the first game. People want to see if he looks ready. He's never going to look ready by whatever standard that means. He's the one that they have the most invested in by far. He's the one that they obviously think has the most upside. And he should play, especially because there's really no good reason to think either of the other guys can be nearly as successful. So for me, it always should have been him, and the preseason is a waste of time. And maybe it will be. Like, he hasn't been bad for what expectations were, and McCarron is out, so we'll see.
It's one of those scenarios. It reminds me a little bit of what the Bears did last year, though. I don't know if McCarron gets signed. Maybe he does, maybe doesn't. If the Bills think they have a chance to draft Allen. Last year, 2 years ago, I should say, going into 17, the Bucks or the Bears signed Mike Glennon away from Tampa, and you're like, okay, well, that's great. And then they trade up to 2 to get Trubisky. So what did you want to do? And then naturally, no one's surprised when Glennon loses his job 2 or 3 weeks into the season. Had McCarron started, fans would have been calling for Allen, and you shouldn't always do what the fans want, but they would have been calling for him after the first couple 3-and-outs opening day, wouldn't they have?
Maybe, but it shouldn't matter. I mean, some fans are always going to want someone else, and this team has really been mediocre for so long that you can appreciate that. But I think the Bears comparison is pretty good. I mean, teams have so much money and so much cap room that the kind of investment, I think Glennon was more money than McCarron. That kind of investment is not a big deal to them. So it's insurance, it's competition. Coaches like Sean McDermott like to hold up competition that veterans have earned something that rookies haven't. These things they go over better when you have other guys, not to mention the possibility that one of these guys like Glennon or McCarron will actually play and do well. So I think it is a little bit like that. Both teams should have been I don't know the Bears thing inside and out, but they were picking third. If they liked Sean Watson, they were going to get him. I mean, if looking at the Bills situation, they should have expected, I think they did, to get a quarterback at some point. I actually think, and this isn't like rock solid, but from talking to enough people over the spring and summer, I think plan B was Mason Rudolph at the 12th pick. But maybe someday, I'll know that for sure. So it feels like that.
Did they like him more than Lamar Jackson then, quite obviously?
I never heard one word about the Bills having interest in Lamar Jackson.
Yeah.
And I loved him. I love the idea of him. This is the first time I'll ever like Baltimore because they have Lamar Jackson on their team. Like I've never had any reason to like Baltimore. They've always been sort of like a villain character for me.
Well, my recollection is the Bills fans loved it when the Dolphins passed on him at 11. Because right after Rosen to take Jackson, there would have been that comparison for the next half decade had they both stayed there, quite obviously.
Yeah, maybe. The Dolphins are an interesting team too, but I don't know. I'm not thinking about like what fans wanted. I know I like Jackson a lot, and I thought it would have been really cool for him to end up here. But as far as I know, the Bills had no interest in him. There are probably several teams like that just felt, maybe he was just not what they wanted. I don't know. I don't want to put it the wrong way, but I mean, Allen is such a controversial prospect. Fans are arguing here all the time about whether the media are fair to him. I mean, give me a break. He was pretty much lousy at Wyoming. Maybe there's a lot to prove here.
What have we seen so far? I mean, he was, this is the guy they got. So this is the guy that's going to have to be the quarterback for this team, or he's going to hear about it, and the team is going to hear about it for years to come. He's had a very short time as a professional. What have we seen so far as him being able to carry the load from day one?
Well, there's all kinds of different opinions, of course. And the guys that I read the most and like respect the most, who've analyzed his college performance closely, and I think are totally objective about it, generally, what I've seen is what they say is he looks like he should look. He's doing the things well that he did well in school. That's throwing on the run. He's obviously huge and can throw it a long way. So there are certain things that I think if you talk to like a Matt Waldman or guys that really carefully studied him, other guys like that in the industry, I think most of them would tell you that so far you're seeing good and bad what Josh Allen brings. The general consensus on him seems to be he can do super hard things. He can make super hard things look easy and super easy things look hard. So, I mean, the preseason is so short and there's all these complications. Are you playing with the other good players? Are you playing against the other good players? Are you running the real plays? My advice is totally ignore it. There's nothing but noise that can come out of the preseason. And the little bit that he's played, I think he's kind of done about as well as he should have.
So you don't see the Patriots till night game, October 29th, right before Halloween in Buffalo. They'll have played 7 games by then, so will the Bills. I remember listening to you guys the day after Kansas City walloped them in the Friday night game, though that's mostly all fourth quarter points, but it matters. And I think you're like me. I don't buy into the Pats being vulnerable until they actually freaking are. And yet this year, I get it. I get why people think the Jets might. The Jets should beat them one of the 2 games if Darnold's anything like we think he is. Do you see still vulnerability in New England just based on this offseason, based on all the weird Belichick-Brady stuff?
Not really, but I also understand it. But relative to other teams, it's hard to make an argument. And plus, a lot of us can remember 10 to 15 years ago wondering on the air if it was over, which, I mean, is just mind-blowing because, like, Brady tears his ACL in 2008, and he's kind of old by then, so it's probably time for decline. Sure, there's a pretty good list of difficulties that have happened there, and so you can focus on that, but there have been those in other years, and they've been fine. And the division is so weak. It's, like, not even interesting. If one other good, consistently good franchise were in their division, the history might be a lot different about them. But it's such a cakewalk to 11, 12 wins every year. I don't think it looks different enough to me to be thinking that way.
Host of Schopp and the Bulldog, Mike Schopp, WGR550 in Buffalo. You can hear him in the afternoon. You heard him this morning. We thank you so much for getting up and joining us.
You're welcome.
It's fascinating.
Yeah.
I'm so excited about the National Football League season. I can't tell you.